It is 8:47 on a Tuesday morning. You are sitting in your car outside a bank. The engine is off, your phone is in your hand, and there is a number on the screen that should make you happy. For years, you imagined reaching a number like this. You thought there would be relief, pride, maybe even a little disbelief. Instead, you feel almost nothing. Your phone rings. Dad, you stare at his name. Then back at the banking app. Same old car. Same scratch across the dashboard. Same coffee stain beside the gear shift. Nothing about your life looks different. But last night, you discovered something you had somehow missed for years. And this morning, your father is about to make that discovery matter. The phone rings again. You answer, but to understand what happens next, you have to go back to when a single unexpected bill could ruin your entire month. Your life doesn't look broken. That's the problem. You have a job. You pay rent or a mortgage. There's food in the refrigerator. Your phone works. You can occasionally order dinner without checking your account first. From the outside, everything looks normal. Inside your head, you're counting days. Payday arrives on Friday. For a moment, you feel safe. Then rent leaves. Insurance, utilities, credit cards, car payments, student loans, childcare, money sent home to family. By Monday, your salary already feels old. Then life adds something you didn't plan for. A tire, a dental bill, a school expense, a broken appliance, and the money you promised yourself you'd save disappears before it ever becomes savings. So you start telling yourself, next month, next raise, next bonus, next year. But the strange thing is, you aren't reckless. You're doing what millions of people do. Working, paying, repeating, and because everyone around you seems to be doing the same thing, you assume the anxiety is just adulthood. You don't call it financial fragility. You call it Tuesday. That's what makes the trap so effective. Nothing looks wrong enough to force a change. You can survive. You just can't absorb anything. One bad week can still reach directly into your future. And you don't yet realize that this is the first number that matters. Not your salary, not your car, not your credit limit. How many months could your life continue if your next paycheck never arrived? At this point, your answer is almost 0. And you have no idea how important that number will become. Then the promotion comes. You read the new salary twice. Finally, breathing room. Except 6 months later, the breathing room is gone. Not because you became reckless. Your life simply became more expensive. Better restaurants. A nicer phone. A slightly better apartment. A car payment that suddenly feels reasonable. Your coworker goes to Italy. Someone from school buys a house. Another person posts the keys to a new SUV. And without anybody saying it directly, you feel behind. So you upgrade. Just enough. You deserve it. You've worked hard. And maybe you do deserve it. But there's a difference between enjoying money and using money to prove you're doing well. You don't notice that difference yet. You only notice that your higher salary somehow produces the same old feeling. You still wait for payday. You still hate unexpected expenses. You still carry balances you thought the raise would erase. Because your income increased. But your financial distance from disaster didn't. Then one sentence becomes dangerous. I can afford the payment, not the price. The payment. And once every raise gets converted into another monthly obligation, your salary can rise while your freedom stays exactly where it was. You look richer, but financially, you haven't moved. And that's when the real question changes. It stops being, how much do you earn? It becomes, how much of your income survives you? The change begins on an ordinary Wednesday night. No breakthrough. No millionaire secret. No perfect investment. You're sitting at the kitchen table with your banking app open. And you're tired. tired of calculating, tired of moving expenses between dates, tired of hoping nothing breaks before Friday. So you move $100 into savings, maybe £80, maybe 130 Canadian dollars. It looks almost insulting. You see people online talking about six figures, passive income, real estate, early retirement, and you've saved $100. But you leave it there. Then you do it again. Eventually, the car needs work. Your first instinct is familiar. Credit card. Then you remember the savings. You use some of it. The balance falls. And for a second, it feels like you've gone backward. But something important just happened. You solved today's problem without borrowing from tomorrow. That is the beginning of what you later start calling your freedom gap. The gap between your next emergency and panic. At first, it's tiny, maybe $500. Then 1 month of expenses. Then 2. The goal isn't to become rich overnight. The goal is to create distance. A simple way to measure it is this. Take your essential monthly expenses. Housing, food, utilities, insurance, minimum debt payments. Then divide your liquid savings by that number. If you have $6,000 saved and your essential life costs $3,000 a month, you have roughly 2 months of breathing room. Not wealth, not retirement. 2 months where life has to work harder to corner you. And suddenly, progress becomes measurable, not by what you can buy, but by how long you can breathe. Then comes the harder part. Other people. Your friends suggest a weekend away. The old version of you would say yes immediately and worry about the bill later. This time, you hesitate. You can technically pay for it, but doing it would shrink the gap you've started building. So you say no. Someone laughs. Someone calls you cheap. It stings more than it should. Because spending was never only about spending. It was belonging. Proof that you were keeping up. Proof that you weren't struggling. And now, every time you choose your future over somebody else's opinion, you feel a little exposed. Still, you keep the old car, you stop upgrading things automatically, you cancel expenses you barely use, you attack high-interest debt, you begin investing gradually in diversified assets you actually understand. Nothing dramatic. Markets rise, markets fall. Your contribution is boring. That is exactly why it works. A portion of every paycheck slowly stops belonging to your past. Less goes to interest, more goes to assets. And here's the second number you begin tracking. Net worth. Assets minus liabilities. Cash, investments, retirement accounts, other meaningful assets, minus your debts. At first, the number is ugly. Maybe negative. Maybe barely positive. But now you can see movement. Your salary may stay flat for a year, while your net worth rises. And that is the moment you begin separating income from wealth. One pays you this month. The other changes what your future is allowed to do to you. Years pass, not dramatically, in Mondays. Paychecks, groceries, taxes, birthday gifts. Broken appliances, good market years, bad market years. Automatic transfers you barely notice anymore. Then one afternoon, your manager asks to speak with you. There have been rumors, layoffs, your stomach tightens. But something is different. You know your numbers. Your essential expenses are about $3,200 a month. Your cash reserves could cover around 8 months. You have no credit card balance. Your investments are separate. You still care about the job. You still don't want to lose it. But losing it would no longer become an immediate emergency. And this is when the freedom gap stops feeling theoretical. 8 months is not just $25,000 or $26,000 sitting somewhere. It's 8 months of decisions. 8 months where you don't have to accept the first terrible job. 8 months where a boss has less power over your fear. 8 months where your family can keep eating while you figure out what comes next. Money is turning into time, and time changes the way you negotiate with life. You start realizing that wealth isn't only accumulation, it's optionality. How many choices can you make without asking permission from your next paycheck? That question becomes more important than whether your car looks impressive in the parking lot. And, just when you think you've finally understood what money is for, your father calls. His voice is too calm. You know immediately that something is wrong. There's a financial problem, a repair, a payment, a gap. Nothing catastrophic, but enough. Years ago, this conversation would have created two problems, his and yours. You would have helped by borrowing, or delaying your own bills, or using a credit card and pretending you'd deal with it later. This time, you ask questions. How much is actually needed? What happens if nothing is done? Is this a temporary gap or a recurring problem? What solution fixes it instead of postponing it? You help, but only in a way your own finances can absorb. And afterward, you notice what didn't happen. You didn't panic. You didn't resent him. You didn't destroy your own month to rescue his. That night, your old definition of wealth breaks apart. You used to think wealthy meant walking into a store and never checking the price. Now it feels almost childish. Real wealth, at least at this stage of your life, looks more like this. A problem appears, and you are still yourself. You can think. You can ask questions. You can say yes without drowning. You can say no without collapsing from guilt. Money hasn't removed fear. It has stopped fear from making every decision for you. 1 year later, your father calls again. And this time, you're already sitting outside the bank. Tuesday, 8:47 in the morning. Same old car, same dashboard, same stain beside the gear shift. Your phone is in your hand. Last night, you did something you hadn't done in months. You calculated everything. Cash, retirement accounts, investments, home equity if you have it, debts, the whole picture. Assets minus liabilities. And for the first time, the number feels unfamiliar. You aren't suddenly a billionaire. You may not even consider yourself rich. But then you compare it to where you started. Credit card debt, car loan, no emergency fund, 0 months of breathing room. You realize your life has quietly moved through stages. First, 1 week of protection. Then 1 month. Then 3. Then 6. Debt falls. Assets rise. Investment growth starts adding something alongside your own contributions. Your net worth crosses numbers you once thought belonged to somebody else, and yet you never felt a dramatic transition. Because there wasn't one. You had been waiting for wealth to arrive like an event. Instead, it arrived more like compound interest, quietly, unevenly, over years. Your phone rings. Dad, now we're back at the beginning. You answer. The situation is more serious this time. There's a larger amount involved, a decision has to be made, and suddenly, your net worth isn't a score anymore. Your freedom gap isn't a spreadsheet. The years of boring decisions are standing in front of you, asking what they were for. You look at the bank, then at the phone, and finally understand. You weren't building money so you could stare at the number. You were building the ability to choose what happens next. You walk into the bank. You've already run the numbers. You know what you can contribute. You know what needs to stay untouched. You know that helping someone you love does not require destroying the structure that allows you to help at all. So you make the transfer. Your balance falls. And yes, you feel it. Because money means something different now. It represents hours, choices, years of restraint. The restaurant you skipped, the debt you paid, the car you kept, the raise you didn't completely spend, the months when investing felt boring, the months when markets fell and you kept going anyway. But you don't feel poorer. You finally understand what all of that discipline purchased. It bought distance. the car broke, and debt didn't return. Layoffs came, and you had months instead of days. Your family needed help, and you could respond without becoming financially unstable yourself. Your old life was vulnerable to small shocks. Your new life can absorb them. This is why average people can get richer without noticing. They expect wealth to arrive as addition: a bigger house, a nicer car, more visible consumption. But early wealth often arrives through subtraction. Debt disappears. Interest disappears. Panic gets smaller. Dependence weakens. The number of things capable of ruining your month starts shrinking. You keep waiting for your life to look richer, but the real signal is that fewer things can make you desperate. That is the transformation you almost missed. By now, the pattern is obvious. There are 3 numbers that tell you more about your financial direction than almost anything you can display publicly. Number 1, your monthly survival cost. What does it actually cost to keep your essential life running? Not your dream lifestyle, your real baseline. Number 2, your freedom gap. Take your liquid savings and divide them by your essential monthly expenses. That tells you roughly how many months of breathing room you have if your income disappears. 1 month feels different from 0. 6 feels different from 1. 12 feels different again. Number 3, your net worth trend. Assets minus liabilities. You don't need to obsess over it every day. Markets move. Home values move. Life happens. What matters is the direction over years. Are your debts shrinking? Are your productive assets growing? Are you keeping more of what you earn? Those 3 numbers expose things a salary cannot. Someone can earn $200,000 a year and still be 1 missed paycheck away from panic. Someone else can earn half as much, carry little debt, own growing assets, and have a year of expenses saved. Which person is richer? The answer depends on what you think money is for. If money is for display, the first person may win. If money is for control, the answer gets more complicated. Because the real goal was never to become impossible to hurt. That's not realistic. Life can still overwhelm anybody. The goal is to become harder to corner. And that is something you can measure. Maybe your freedom gap is still 0. Maybe your net worth is negative. Maybe debt is still taking too much of your paycheck. Then start where you actually are. Not where somebody online says you should be. Find your essential monthly number. Build 1 month between you and panic. Then another. Pay down the debt that keeps dragging your future backward. Own more assets over time. Let your raises create distance, not just better payments. And every few months, look at the direction. Because financial progress can be almost invisible while it's happening. You may still drive the same car, work the same job, live on the same street. But one day, something goes wrong. The bill is bigger than expected. The company announces layoffs. Someone you love needs help. And for the first time, your brain does not immediately say, "I'm finished." It says, "Okay, what are my options?" That is not unlimited wealth. It is not financial perfection. But it is a form of freedom most people deeply underestimate. You thought getting rich would feel like finally being able to buy everything. Sometimes it starts when fewer things are able to buy your fear. If you want to know whether you're actually getting richer, don't look at your salary first. Look at your freedom gap. Look at your debt. Look at whether your net worth is moving in the right direction. And if you want to understand the next trap, watch the next video on this channel. Why your salary can keep rising while you stay broke. Because earning more is only half the game. What happens after the money reaches your account decides whether your life gets richer with it. Subscribe if you want finance explained through the decisions that actually change your life. Not fantasies, not shortcuts, and not overnight promises.